I probably watch Channel 10 news the most from about 5 p.m. of an afternoon till about 7:30, so about 2.5 hours of news, and not a big fan of asylum seekers in general. I think there's always a place for refugees, but I guess I just do have that view that they're queue jumpers, even though it's a bit politically incorrect. I really do think that genuine refugees are missing out on a chance to come to Australia because of these people, but at the same time I think we've got a bigger capacity to take in more refugees.
Primarily listen to ABC 612 radio, Brisbane, and I consume online articles as well from various different sources, primarily Australian. My thoughts on asylum seekers. Basically, if we can help people who are coming from countries that are suffering from conflict, whether it be political or anything like that, I think we should help them as human beings.
Asylum seekers, it's actually something I really don't have much of an opinion on. I guess you'd have to put yourself in their shoes. You just came from a world where you watch your father get shot for food stamps. And then they come here and they get more benefits than the average Australian citizen, like free education and stuff, which is kind of weird, so it makes me want to resent them. I guess my ambiguity towards the whole question of it is kind of a clear example of the fact that it's not being handled properly, because I don't have a clear view of how it should be done.
I get most of my news from news.com.au, and when I'm in the car I listen to Nova and B105, so I get my news when they're on. What do I think about asylum seekers? Well, I don't actually know too much about the issue, but I think it's a good idea to at least check out their, find out if they actually are refugees and not just for the sake of it. And I think sort of setting up in Malaysia is a good idea rather than letting them stay in the country.
Yeah, I mainly get my news from The Guardian or BBC. I'm not using Australian websites and neither Americans, so that's where I get my news. And I reckon that it's a good thing to exchange these refugees and bring them to Malaysia. It sends a strong sign out to the other refugees on the way to Australia.
I get all my news sources from news.com, generally Channel 10 news shows, so the afternoon news, 6:30 with George Negus, sometimes 7:30 projects, 7 p.m. projects. And in terms of asylum seekers and black people, I feel that perhaps they should be processed here just because we have a better system as opposed to Malaysia.
Asylum seekers that are the board people that come to Australia, they are not legal. They are illegal and they should be sent back to Malaysia. Anyway, when they're allowed to Australia, it's creating confusion and stereotyping that refugees from Africa, from other places that come under legal humanitarian visas, they are seen as innocent pot. So I think that the government should just deport them back to where they come from.
I think it's a good thing because Malaysia is quite well developed. I mean, I've been there many times, and I think it's quite a good sort of setting and location for them to be shipped over to Australia, really. Simple as that. What news stations do I listen to? Just mainly whatever my mum listens to, really, like B105, ABC, stuff like that, in the car on the way to uni. That's about it, really.
Yeah, I think it's a new low for the Australian government. The Labor Party is sending refugees to places where they know abuses happen. Amnesty International did a great expose on them, the Malaysian detention camps a few years ago. There's systemic and widespread abuse. Refugees are publicly flogged, basically used as slave labour. The average length of time for the majority of refugees in Malaysian detention camps are years, sometimes decades. And the fact that the Australian government is sending people coming to Australia looking for help and basic humanity to these hellholes, these hells on earth, is absolutely a disgrace, and I am totally opposed to the Malaysian solution. I think refugees should be processed here and treated humanely.
I generally get all of my news online. I go to Press Display a lot, have a look at whatever papers are on there, and just basically look at anything that interests me. I don't really know very much about, the asylum seekers or about people, not necessarily because it isn't in the news sources that I look at, but more because it's just not something that I personally go through and seek out.
Pretty much, I have no issues against asylum seekers as long as they go through the correct channels, and if they go through the incorrect channels, they then shouldn't, have the right to complain that they're, in a detention center away from political oppression, which is what they're escaping anyway.